The sound of silence was deafening in the tiny bathroom. Clara Jensen sat on the cold, tiled floor, her knees pulled to her chest, the test trembling in her hands. 2 pink lines. She stared at them as if they were a dream she could still undo. The air felt heavier, and every second stretched into eternity. She had imagined many futures with Ethan Vance, but none like this. He had just left, 2 days ago, with a promise that he would call every night. He was heading abroad for the opportunity of his life, the one he had fought for since the day they met. She had smiled when he told her, hiding the ache that rose in her throat. "Go," she'd said, her voice steady even when her heart was breaking. "You have to." Now those 2 lines whispered the truth she had not been ready for. Her hands shook as she picked up her phone. She typed, "Ethan, I need to tell you something," then erased it, again and again. Her reflection in the mirror looked pale, almost unfamiliar. "You can do this," she whispered to herself. "You'll be fine." But her chest tightened with fear and love all at once. She thought of his laughter, the warmth in his eyes, the plans they made. Yet now all that remained was silence and a choice that would change everything. She placed the test beside her, closed her eyes, and whispered softly, "You'll be my secret, my biggest reason, and my hardest fight." 5 years later, the sun spilled gently into a small Lisbon apartment, painting golden stripes across the wooden floor. The sound of laughter filled the air, light, innocent, and full of life. "Mama, look! I made a rocket!" shouted Leo, his little hands holding a paper spaceship proudly. Clara smiled, her heart swelling at the sight. 5 years ago, fear ruled her life. Now love did. Leo was her reason for every breath she took, her hope in the quiet mornings and her strength in sleepless nights. She had left everything behind, her country, her dreams, and the man she once thought she'd never live without. But in return, life gave her this small boy with Ethan's eyes and her stubborn heart. Every morning, she walked Leo to kindergarten before heading to her design studio, where she illustrated children's books. Her name was now known, quietly but proudly, in a city where no one asked about her past. But some nights, when the city lights blurred through her window, she found herself tracing old memories. Ethan's laughter, the warmth of his hand, the way he once promised forever. Leo would sometimes ask, "Mama, where's my daddy?" And she'd smile gently, her voice steady but soft. "He's somewhere far away, my love, like a star in another sky." Leo would nod, believing her every word, not knowing that his father once held that same dream-filled light in his eyes. Clara thought she had buried her past, but fate had other plans. The streets of London glimmered under the evening drizzle, lights reflecting like scattered dreams across wet glass. Ethan Vance stood by his office window, staring at the skyline that had once felt like victory. His name was now printed on magazine covers, his designs praised across continents, yet his success tasted hollow. Every time he raised a glass in celebration, he saw her face in the reflection. Clara, the one he left behind with promises that never grew roots. He told himself he would go back once his career was stable, but 5 years slipped away faster than he could catch them. That night, he stopped at a small bookstore after a meeting, searching for something he couldn't name. His fingers brushed a children's book on display, soft colors, delicate lines. He froze when he read the words beneath the cover, illustrated by Clara Jensen. The name hit him like thunder. He turned the pages with trembling hands, each drawing whispering pieces of her heart. A tear slipped down before he could stop it. She had made it. She was alive in the pages, stronger, brighter, braver. Ethan left the store with that book pressed to his chest, his pulse racing. For the first time in years, he didn't feel proud. He felt lost. That night, as he lay awake, one question refused to fade. What if she never forgave me? The universe has a strange way of crossing paths that were never meant to meet again. A month after finding her name on that book, Ethan stood at the airport gate, ticket in hand, his heart thudding louder than the engines outside. He had no plan, no message prepared, only a restless pull he could no longer ignore. The city that once gave him everything suddenly felt empty without the woman who had taught him what love truly was. So he followed the only clue he had, illustrated by Clara, Lisbon, Portugal. He whispered her name like a prayer as the plane lifted off the ground. Meanwhile, in Lisbon, life continued with its quiet rhythm. Clara was sketching at her studio when her phone buzzed. An email from an international agency requesting to feature her work in an exhibition. She smiled, unaware of the storm moving toward her. That evening, she and Leo walked through the park, the little boy racing ahead to chase pigeons. His laughter echoed through the air, pure and carefree. He had Ethan's eyes, curious, bright, and filled with wonder. Clara often wondered if destiny would ever make their worlds collide again. She didn't know that somewhere above the clouds, Ethan was on his way, chasing a memory he never stopped loving. The door of the Lisbon Art Museum opened with a hum that echoed in Ethan's chest. His palms were sweating, his heart unsteady, and his eyes searching for a face he had not seen in 5 years. The hall was filled with bright lights and soft music, but he only saw one thing. Her name displayed beside a collection of dreamy illustrations. Clara Jensen. Stories for the Little Heart. He stood still, his throat tight. Each drawing told a piece of their story, love, distance, and courage. And then, in the corner of the room, he saw her. Clara. She stood by her paintings, graceful and calm, her hair tied back just as he remembered. Time had changed her, but her eyes still carried that quiet strength. His breath caught. He wanted to run to her, to say all the words he never could, but his feet felt glued to the ground. A small boy tugged at Clara's hand. Dark curls, bright eyes, and a familiar smile. Ethan froze. The boy looked no older than 5. Something inside him shattered and bloomed all at once. Clara noticed the stillness across the room. Her eyes met his, and for a second, the whole world stopped moving. Destiny had finally brought them face to face, but not as lovers. As strangers bound by a secret neither could run from anymore. For a moment, the world went silent. Ethan's lips parted, but no words came out. Clara stood frozen, her hand still resting on Leo's small shoulder. The boy looked between them, confused by the sudden stillness. Ethan took a hesitant step forward, his voice shaking. "Clara, is he—" She didn't answer right away. Her chest rose and fell as if the air around them had turned too heavy to breathe. She had imagined this moment 100 times, but nothing could prepare her for the reality of it. "Yes," she finally whispered, her voice barely audible. "He's your son." Ethan's knees weakened as the truth crashed over him. 5 years. 5 years of missed birthdays, laughter, and bedtime stories. His eyes filled with tears he didn't try to hide. "You should have told me," he said softly. not in anger but in pain. Clara looked at him, her gaze steady yet full of sorrow. "And what would you have done, Ethan? Given up your dream? Stayed out of guilt?" Her voice trembled. "You were meant to fly." "I couldn't clip your wings." Leo, sensing the tension, reached for his mother's hand. Ethan knelt down, looking at the boy, really seeing him. "Hi," he said gently. "I'm Ethan." The boy tilted his head. "Are you Mama's friend?" Ethan smiled through the tears. "Something like that." Clara's eyes softened, the years of silence melting into fragile peace. That night, standing under the Lisbon lights, Ethan whispered, "I never stopped loving you." And Clara, tears glistening, replied, "Then love him too." That's where we begin again,